Good morning and welcome into another edition of Mic'd Up here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now and throughout the Now family of networks. Mic'd Up is presented by Martin Lawn Services as usual. Doug Martin's number there, 412-849-5894. And I'm your host, Mike Osti. I am joined by Mike Fokovacan. This is a big week to say the very, very least.
Oh, yeah.
This is NFL draft week. We have a lot going on throughout our network, but also this is just a big week in general. And we are now 24 hours after, we'll give or take, the morning after Kevin Colbert and Mike Tomlin's comments to kind of set the table for what we may expect. They danced around a few, maybe gave us some answers every now and then, but it's going to be interesting what the Steelers do in this draft, Mike. And as we touched on past show, this is a very important draft. So we're going to touch on their comments. We also may allude a little bit to a very important series that starts today for the Pittsburgh Pirates as they're now 500. They've been playing well, but they are playing the best team in baseball, who also might be a surprise story for many as well back here in Pittsburgh. But Mike, to get things started, Kevin Colbert, Mike Tomlin, they spoke to the media just yesterday. Kevin Colbert did talk about the thought process on if they will draft a running back in the first round, but really just said he'll draft the best available and they won't shy away. Didn't really answer it. Talked about Vince Williams, talked about other moves, and talked about the draft a little bit. He spoke more than anyone. What are your thoughts? What are your takeaways from what Kevin Colbert had to say? And did anything he said change anything for you in terms of what you think the Steelers are going to do? And for anyone who didn't watch this video, we do have it on Pittsburgh Sports Live.
Well, I thought it was interesting. He mentioned a couple of times on how the three deepest positions in the draft were center. He mentioned center and cornerback. And I think he said wide receiver as well. I think with that, that this doesn't mean anything. But what it does tell me, though, is that they don't necessarily have to. We know that those are positions that the Steelers are going to have to address at some point. That means that they don't necessarily have to take those guys right away. If they're as deep as Colbert claims they are, they don't have to take a center with the first pick or cornerback. They can still get value later on. I don't know. People were trying to bait him with I don't know, bait, but people were asking a lot obviously about the running back.
Right.
And honestly, I believe that I think is the Steelers are either going to trade out of the first round, or I think the Steelers are going to draft a running back. I just think that's the way it's going to go. Wouldn't surprise me if they trade back if their guy. There's some talk now that the Bills want to move up to pick the Clemson running back. If they still think they can get their guy and maybe pick up some draft picks, I think that might be the smarter way. So I think that's what they're going to do. The other comment that stood out to me was Mike Tomlin and what he had to say about Dwayne Haskins.
Yeah.
And I think –
And we hadn't heard much about Dwayne Haskins from him directly since the signing.
I think Dwayne Haskins is going to be the Steelers' rookie quarterback this year. I don't know that the Steelers, they might do their usual deal of picking a quarterback late. But I think Mike Tomlin is going to give Dwayne Haskins a year in their system, working with him, evaluating the type of player and person he is. Mm-hmm. And he, in all purposes, he's a rookie still.
Right.
So I think Dwayne Haskins is going to be giving every opportunity to stick with the Steelers long term.
I 100% agree on the Haskins point, and that might be disappointment to some, but Haskins was a low-risk, high-reward signing, and people forget that is a first-round quarterback, even though he hasn't played like it and hasn't been like it, but that's mostly been because of off-the-field stuff. They may feel if they get him in this room, if they talk to him, if they get him to at least be more mature in general, it might help him, and there's still talent there. So that might be exactly what they're going to do, and it'll be the same thing they did with Minkah Fitzpatrick. When they traded for Minkah a couple years ago, they needed some secondary help. They needed safety help, and they decided that it was worth that trade to give up their first-round ability and make Minkah their first-round pick, basically, and it certainly worked out. Minkah was better than advertised and has been an all-pro for the Steelers. So that could be the case. Certainly could be the case. Obviously, Ben's the starter. If he goes down, it's Mason. And we'll see what Dobbs does in camp. And if he's able to stay on the roster, he might push Haskins. But I'd imagine Haskins, unless things go totally off the rails mentally, he has a chance, third string quarterback, if he's okay in camp, and to them at least have him around, because they're not wasting much. If he goes in a bar and acts a fool, they could just drop him immediately. And
I think
he knows he doesn't have much.
Yeah, I think that's the thing, Mike. I think this is going to be a year of, obviously he has to show something talent-wise.
Sure.
But I think they're going to evaluate him more, the type of person he is, the type of teammate he is, the time he spends trying to get better. This is going to be, nobody better than Mike Tomlin as far as to figure out a character, whether or not this guy could fit into their system.
He knows the good characters. He knows the bad characters. He's been around, right?
And I think Tomlin's a guy that Haskins will be comfortable being able to be himself around. And I think Mike Tomlin is a good judge of character and will figure this out. So we'll see how it is. I don't know that he's going to show a lot this year on the field, because if he does, that's probably bad news for the Steelers.
Right. Yeah.
But it should be interesting, and that's what I took yesterday. I think this talk of the only thing that might change that is if in some weird world, Justin Fields drops down to the mid-teens.
I just don't see it. I've seen those tweets from colleagues. I feel like it's a pipe dream. I mean, obviously, if that occurs, then all bets are off.
I think people are trying to hope that happens.
Right.
Yeah.
That's even, I don't think Justin Fields' agent loves seeing these tweets, because he doesn't even want that out in the universe. Yeah. If there's an Aaron Rodgers slide, which is what it would be, then okay. All bets are off. The same thing Green Bay did during that draft. They had other things going on. They just were in the NFC title game, but oh my God, this guy slid. We got to fix things. If that's the case, it'd be very similar, then sure. But unless that occurs, as I said before, I would rather see them go safer and do an offensive tackle or a center or something like that in the first round than a running back. But I think they're going to draft a running back. I think if Harris is there, they're going to draft him. I think they basically have said, my takeaways kind of are that they almost feel like there's several different offensive tackles they could draft later, Jenkins included, but maybe they could even have him slide, or if they don't get him, that's okay. They can get somebody else. But as far as running backs go, and they realize there's a need, they don't want to go in with just Benny Snell as the main back, that Harris and maybe a couple others are really the only running backs they like, and they don't feel like they can get any of those running backs to help them to be above Benny Snell level unless they do it in the first round. So that's a kind of my takeaways as well. And it was interesting, his comments, because Kevin Colbert really tried to be nice to Benny Snell, McFarland, and Samuels, while also saying this running back group's not good enough. And we said, well, they're on the roster now. We're looking at them. We'll see. But of course, we need to be better. Basically saying this is not a good enough group right now. But it's a very important draft, a lot for the Steelers to do. They may trade out of the first round. That's very, very possible. May happen. And maybe that'll stack some second-round picks, especially if they don't. There's a possibility that Fields doesn't fall, that Harris is taken before the Steelers, because there's rumors that the Jets before them could maybe take him. Jenkins, if they even like him, could be taken by the Jets or by other teams right in front of the Steelers. They've been mocked to him. So there is a doomsday possibility that they don't get any of those four guys, and they have to go all off the board in terms of the major number one on those boards, even though they still draft the position. And if that occurs, they then may try to get out of there if they see those tea leaves happening.
And one other comment that kind of I found a little bit interesting was when the Colbert and Tomlin were talking about their take on drafting guys that opted out last season.
Right.
I found that to be interesting, because one guy I really like to see the Steelers take, and I think he's getting this draft, the whole draft for years, it's always been a mystery as far as guys that slide and what people think and everything else, is Jalen Twyman from Pitt. And this has nothing to do with the fact that he plays at Pitt.
Right.
From the day Jalen Twyman stepped foot at Pitt, his freshman season, the guy has been nothing but a producer. He's had no problems off the field. He's just been a quiet leader. He put up numbers that were better than Aaron Donald. Uh, the guy's just played.
Yeah, repeat yourself. He put up numbers better than Aaron Donald.
Yeah, the guy's just been a producer. Everything he's did, and he's not. And the biggest thing is he's not been a problem. He was a leader for Narduzzi in that team, and for whatever reason, it seems as though he is getting penalized for sitting out last season. And I'm seeing mock drafts of him being in the 6th or 7th round. Are you kidding me? This guy, when we talk about a guy that could possibly fill in years from now or a couple of years from now or whatever for Hayward or Tuitt on that Steeler defensive line, he would be a guy that would be it. If the Steelers have a chance, I'm not advocating, 1st, 2nd, 3rd round, but we start getting to the 4th rounds and Jalen Twyman's still on the board there as far as a possible defensive tackle. That's a guy I would love to have the Steelers try to go after, because I think he has a work ethic and the guy wants to be great. And I think he's going to be a guy that will be in the NFL for a long time.
That's an interesting point for sure. And we'll see how those players are handled, whether just Twyman or several others, because there's more than him that maybe have that ability. So we'll see. And it does seem like teams are not willing to come right out and say that they're holding it against them, or they're not, but it clearly feels like that is being held against certain players. Mic'd Up here, presented by Martin Lawn Services here on Pittsburgh Sports Live and Pittsburgh Sports Now. NFL Draft Week, we'll have a live draft show leading up to maybe the Steelers' first round pick, or maybe they'll trade out on Thursday night. Mike put up a show there on PSL, a talk with DJ Turner about his draft stock. We have draft talk also going on, and then my mic drop show with some draft thoughts of mine that have been up on the channel in recent days and weeks. Get it all there. Mike, before we close up shop, the Pirates have a very important series against the best team in baseball right now, 14-7 Royals, which I can't even believe I'm saying. I had to double check you actually, but that's right. Pirates 11-11. Tyler Anderson, I believe, has the start tonight. He's been one of those that can go deep into games. They've been hitting offensively. That's helped them, but they have cooled off a little bit. They're still waiting for Hayes. It's an important series just to gauge this team. And again, I don't think anyone thinks this is a playoff team. They're still going to lose a lot of games. But if they get through this and somehow win 2 out of these 3, maybe that changes some thoughts. This is a good Royals team that is playing really, really well. What do you expect out of this series, and how important is this series?
Well, they're back home now after being on the road for 3 series and winning all 3 of those series, something they hadn't done since 2015. I think they need to. I'm expecting the starting pitching, or the pitching in general, to possibly cool off a little bit. I think the Royals and the Cardinals are teams that will bring bats, so I think the Pirates are going to have to match them offensively, and we'll see if the middle of their lineup can keep going. Brian Reynolds looks like he has his bat. He's probably as hot as anybody in their lineup right now. Gregory Polanco for the last 2 games has been hitting well. The guy that, I think they're going to have to watch here, and I wouldn't be surprised if Derek Shelton gave him a couple days off for just a little bit of a rest, is Phillip Evans is starting to cool down a little bit. So I think
we talked about that. Yep.
Yeah. He's starting to slow down a little bit. So they're going to have to find that other outfielder, but they just need their corner guys to pick them up in the outfield and in the infield. So should be interesting. It's good to see. I looked at the standings this morning. They're in 2nd place in the National League Central. 2 games.
Unbelievable. It really is.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to try to get to a game this weekend against St. Louis. I'm trying to hopefully go Saturday or Sunday. Good to see the Cardinals, but hopefully they can keep playing good baseball here. I don't know how long it's going to last. We're still in only April, and as we all know, baseball is such a long.
Yeah, in June or mid-June, really is.
Yeah, the June swing. But hopefully this lasts longer than the winning continues to go. But they're playing great baseball right now, and that's something no one thought was going to happen.
Yeah, it's lasted longer than I thought. I mean, it's lasted longer than I thought to this point. Again, they're 500 at this point. They've had some great performances by Brubaker and company. They have had Reynolds and a few play really, really well. They need more. Frazier needs to pick it up a little bit. Newman has at least hit a little bit better than recent. Polanco has made some contact. Again, they're not doing enough, but they've got enough to be an 11-11 team, which is just shocking. And hopefully they keep it up when Hayes returns. Again, I can't imagine a scenario where they don't still lose at least 90 games, but I think the story of them losing 100 is gone. And I think that they have at least, even the most critic Pirate person, they've at least have to admit this team has played way better than anyone would have thought. And anybody who's betting against this team for the first 3 weeks is losing a lot of money. I think I saw you put out the tweet there, what you'd be losing per day if you're slamming bets.
I got that on my phone here. My buddy sends me that every game. Where
what was it, like 800 something per day?
That's fine. Ken here. After 22 games, if you bet $100 every game for the Pirates to lose this season, you'd be down $875.
Okay. I guess it could be worse, but yeah, they haven't played. They've been ruining some bets there for some people, and I think Evans got to be given a little bit more time, but he is cooling off at the worst possible time. It is also a little unsettling, the length of Hayes being out, with him being so young when he was supposed to only be out 10 days. That's gone longer. And hopefully they can keep it up for the Pirates' sake when he does return, because that would be funny if they don't. That would just be the Pirate way. Very, very least, though, as you said, you're getting down the ballpark this weekend, they might at least attract more fans, because one thing they haven't done well this year is bring people there. Granted, it's a reduced amount because of COVID. Maybe this will finally attract more people there to the games, which is certainly what they want. And
maybe for the weekend against the Cardinals.
Again, the Cardinals, true.
Come out versus the actually today, the weather today and tomorrow is going to be in the 80s. So
maybe
start. It wouldn't shock me, but
I like those start times, but I don't know if that's harder for certain people with work schedules and things like that. Maybe that affects the attendance, but I like those start times in terms of getting done earlier. But that'll do it for this show. A quick one here this morning. We'll be back at it maybe tomorrow, but certainly up at some point until the NFL draft. We have a lot going on here on the channel and throughout the network up until the NFL draft. And of course, on Thursday when the first round kicks off, and then as we trickle down throughout the weekend, the Steelers are going to be a national story. This draft is just so important for the Steelers. It's going to be beyond what we're able to even talk about here. So they're going to do something that's going to be intriguing. Definitely watch out for it. Mike Fakovic and Mike Osti again. Hit up Doug Martin Lawn Services at 412-849-5894. Check out all the sites. Check out this channel, as we're going to have a video for Tomlin today, as we had Colbert yesterday, to follow those NFL guidelines there with the media policy. We have to stagger them out. For Mike Fakovic, I'm Mike Osti. For all of us at PSL and PSN, that'll do it for this Tuesday morning, but it's Tuesday morning of NFL draft week.